What makes a movie stand the test of time? Jokes that will make you laugh until lunchtime of the day of your funeral, relationships that you will ship together for hours and hours and hours, or perhaps budgets that are so mind-blowing to create the greatest spectacles ever imagined. Although you do wonder most of the time where most of the money went. Well, let us have a time.
There's one aspect to the movie-going experience that is like no other. The movie's impact on you. And no movie symbolises that more in my life than what we are speaking about today. A Real Pain is my favourite movie of all time. The film follows two cousins on a Jewish heritage tour, not just to reconnect with their recently deceased grandma, but with each other. I would be here all day listing all the accomplishments of this movie. Seriously, I've tried. This and always will be the only movie that has changed my life. But before we dive into why, let's find out how a simple act can do the very same.
Hello everybody, I've brought you to the beginning of it all. I've brought you outside the Lincoln Uni student uni, because I used to work here from time to time when Fight Factory Wrestling would put on shows in my college days. And one of those days, on a lovely August evening, I had the privilege of doing this walk that I'm going to take you on now with who would eventually become probably the most life-changing person in my whole life. So what I'm going to take you through right now is just a simple trip to get some lunch that changed my life. And I hope you enjoy it. We're not going to get as far as we did in the original walk, because obviously I had access to the back of the engine shed at the time, which obviously I no longer have. And I don't feel safe having this camera go across the street. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically just go up the ramp, and then I'm going to stop and talk to you. Which obviously isn't as long as the walk it was itself, but the point should still ring true. Yeah, so let's go ruin someone's lovely day and some noise pollution. Right, so for context, as I said, I used to do shows with the Fight Factory Wrestling people. Great people, more people that my ego tarnished relationships with. There's an endless list at this point. There's not a documentary coming out about that, by the way. This is like the end of the self-pitying side of the saga. But nevertheless, and they came up to me because they worked at the merch desk at the time and asked if I wanted to go walking to get some lunch, and I was like, you do realise that there's like future WWE superstars in this room that you could like claim as like, oh, I met this person before, they were like famous and stuff, and get there in an orderly manner due to the nature of my condition. But when I asked them that question, I think they literally just said to me, it's a longer lunch break, isn't it? It was literally what they said to me, which kind of suggests the type of person they were, really. You know, I find it weird how much has changed and how much hasn't changed at the same time. Because so much is the same, but so much is different, you know, like, now their role in my life is spread out amongst 5 people instead of 1, but they still have the same role. I like having 5 friends at equal footing because it's a lot easier than committing wholeheartedly to 1. But yeah, we just walked to get some lunch. Didn't fall over once, which I was surprised, considering a quad stick was new to me at the time. But yeah, we just stopped at this spa here. I don't know how well you can see it because I just remembered that my Pocket 3 can't zoom. And I got to the ramp of said spa and my water bottle fell off and it broke and it cracked. And I was like a bit embarrassed. But you know, it wasn't a big problem for them. They just literally went in the store and decided to help me out. And then they got me like, I can't even remember what the drink was. I think it was just a water because didn't want to take the piss. And then, next show at the 1NK in North Wycombe, I returned the favour, and that was the dawn of probably the most important part of my life for the next 5 years. Yeah, it's kind of, now I'm filming it, it's kind of weird how simple it feels. I don't know if it feels a lot more simpler now because obviously I've bit the bullet and now I use wheelchairs, so trips to the shops are not as arduous as they used to be. But yeah, if you want an opportunity just to change somebody's life, don't look to do like the big grand saving. Like sometimes the simple things do. Yeah, and that's all I kind of have to say really. And it's funny how much changes in such a short amount of time, but yeah, I'm so glad that I had this time in my life, and as much as it kind of hurts that it's no longer a part of it, I'm glad it happened. And the movie Real Pain really helped me come to the realization that I've got to smile because it happened and don't cry because it's over. As much as I loved Boyhood, Road to the Super Bowl, and Boyhood to the Future, and I think those are great projects that I'm extremely proud of, there was one thing that I found that I was missing from those two documentaries respectively, is the fact that I only really told you guys about the demise of the most important thing in my life, essentially. And it's never quite sat right with me since those documentaries came out that those were all the things that you guys saw, and that was something I really wanted to rectify by making this documentary. Because leading up to that walk, my life had kind of told me that I was expendable and that my friendship was considered embarrassing or a means to an end. Because when I was at school, the new kid would come in, they would put with me because, I was well behaved and had a TA, so there was kind of that extra support system for them. And then once they would find their calling, or their friend, if you will, I would be deemed surplus to requirements, and then they would move on to their friendship group and live the rest of their lives in school. I don't know what they've done since departing my sphere, but by that point of the walk, 17 and 18 years had passed of being told that information, to the point where there was only one person left to tell me that I was expendable and I was embarrassing. And that person was, surprise, surprise, me. And it had become so deep ingrained in my psyche and mind that even like pursuing my dream job at the time of being a professional wrestler didn't even fix it. And I think when that walk had happened, I was in such disbelief that anybody would even want to be seen in public with me, let alone being seen in public with me doing literally what I'm scientifically the weakest at, was completely... It really did feel like an anomaly. And when I was really desperate to get on those shows as well, is at the time when I was a wrestler, they would constantly say, oh, we've got to be very careful because, the idea of you being in a ring and wrestling people would be considered offensive, and we've got to be very careful and toe that line. So I'm being told that my mere existence in the industry I'd grown up in is offensive, and then you add on that 17, 18 years of basically being told I was expendable and replaceable and embarrassing. It kind of really starts to hit home, as I said, to the point where there's only one person left to believe that, and that's me. And unfortunately, the walk didn't reset those brain patterns. If anything, anything that happened after that intensified those brain patterns, to the point where I became so enamoured with that friendship and that time in my life that my thought process wasn't, oh, maybe if I become a better person and grow with this person, the friendship will develop with it. My brain became, protect this and keep this by any means necessary. And I liken it to, the whole demise and me complaining about the demise for 3.5 years, to imagine you're drinking Coke for 3.5 years constantly, but you don't brush your teeth. And then you keep drinking more Coke, and you keep drinking more Coke, and you keep drinking more, and you don't brush your teeth. And then all of a sudden, your teeth fall out because you didn't look after them, and you just went for that quick fix over and over and over again. That's what I did when I got to uni. Like, every time I wanted to visit, every time I was going through a crisis, there was only one avenue I wanted to take, because I thought that it would keep them on the hook, and I thought it would keep it alive if I was honest, that it would keep it alive if I did everything I could to get a visit. I wasn't bearing in mind that it never even crossed my mind up until literally probably about a year ago that I was doing damage to the only thing that I essentially cared about. You know, my favourite way to explain it is by paraphrasing a Kryptonite by Three Doors Down. If anybody knows that song, you're an absolute legend. But the best way I can put it is, I went so crazy that the only person that could call me Superman couldn't call me Superman anymore, because I'd become that desperate and that almost angry about the only thing that I cared about, that the only thing that would happen, or that was left to happen, was its demise. And, as the years have gone by, I've really grown to realise that. And I'm glad I did realise it. Believe me, I'm so glad I realised it now, because it needed to be realised. Because it's like I said in the first documentary, I also did it to somebody else afterwards, and it's something I needed to realise and come to terms with, and I'm so glad I did. And I think that realisation is what's allowed me to make this documentary in a way, because that vivid picture that A Real Pain gave me of that friendship and of that time in my life, by being so similar, the clearer picture that it gave me was so eye-opening. And because of that movie, I got this perspective. And because of this movie, I realised my faults and my wrongdoings. Ironically, through the character that I didn't relate to the most, which is Benji. David was the one that I related to, because Benji, in a sense, is the over-eccentric people person, and David was essentially me, the overly shy but doesn't want to be sort of like rule-abiding citizen, if you will. Yeah. I'll be honest, I've put that off. I've put filming this scene off so many times that it's unbelievable. Hopefully I've explained things as well as I could have done.
As soon as A Real Pain blessed my eyes from the first time I saw it, there's only one word I can use to describe that experience: validation. Benji and David's dynamic feels like it was lifted straight from my life and brought back so many treasured memories. The moment where Benji kicks the door open to let them through to the forbidden door feels like it was straight lifted from all the times I would marvel at their carefree attitude and their constant optimism despite their demons. And not just that, the way that Benji captivates people and just really relates to people just really touched me in a way that I never thought it would. To even David's timid yet smart fear of breaking the rules, it all felt like it was lifted from my life and was a truly validating, special experience. But there's one scene I'm going to take you to now, and I hope you enjoy my butchering of the lines, as I think it perfectly sums up the friendship in better words than I could ever say. I'm sorry I'm ranting. I'm just so fucking exhausted by him sometimes. I love him and I hate him and I want to kill him and I want to be him. And I just feel so lame because he's so fucking cool and doesn't give a shit, and then just being with him here with him is just so baffling. Like, how did this guy come from the survivors of this place?
After my 5th time watching A Real Pain, yes, 5th, I left the cinema feeling like I needed to do something. Sat alone in that cinema on the final day it was in cinema really gave me the urge to say goodbye. That intimate experience of just me and the screen really resonated with me. And I'm going to tell you about the scene as well that motivated me to do so. There's this beautiful scene where Benji and David and the rest of the tour go to this memorial, and Benji wants to pose with these fighters against the Nazis in this beautiful statue that's built. And the rest of the gang is hesitant. The rest of the gang is like, is this respectful? Is this not respectful? But Benji's personality galvanizes the whole group and creates a great memory for everybody involved. And as soon as that scene took me back to the core memory that I had in college one time, where I lost my temper and being calmed down by one of my TAs, and this humongous line of people come out to go smoking to the smoking shelter, to the point where my actual lecturer at the time turned to them and went, "It's like the Pied Piper." But the minute I saw that scene, the fact that it drew me to that moment from my college life of, you know, almost getting to relive one of my favourite moments. The minute it made me do that is when I knew I needed to say goodbye in whatever way I saw fit, no matter how strange it looked. That's why I'm thankful to this movie, and that's why I love this movie. Not just because the dynamic was similar, not just because the scenes are fantastic, not just because the performances are literally once in a lifetime, but because it reminded me of a golden lifetime of my own. The best part of my lifetime, before I became obsessed with Washington, I just want to add that in there. But with that in mind, I think there's only one thing left to do. On the Blu-ray of my favourite movie of all time. But this time, I'm going to watch it thinking of the memories I'm going to make, and not of the memories that were.
I love you, guy.
Love you too.
Oh, I'm gonna be fine. You know that?
You sure? Sorry.
You weren't done.